Dear brothers and sisters, as we look at the teachings of the great saints, we find that they all wanted us to live a life in which there was a spiritual message to us. Especially today, in this kind of economy, in this kind of age, when there's a global financial crisis, when it looks like those who were barely making it are having a very, very difficult time because millions have lost their jobs. Those who were reasonably well-to-do are finding it difficult to put food on the table. Those who were very rich have to make changes in their lifestyles because financially things are not what they used to be. And when we look at our lives, we find that we're always searching for wealth. We get up in the morning, we go to work. Whether we work for someone else, whether we work for ourselves, whether we go and teach, we spend anywhere from 8 to 12 hours at work. And then for the work that we do, for whatever profession we are in, at the end of the week or the end of 2 weeks or in a month, we are paid some money. We might be paid in dollars, we might be paid in euros, we might be paid in rupees. But it's currency that we are paid. And when we look at money, what is it? It's like paper. It's paper with something printed on it. And what do we use it for? For commodities, for services, for objects. And so it's like bartering our currency, our paper, for things that we get. And what do we generally get? First of all, we get things for ourselves. We want clothing, we want food, we want a place to live in, we want the amenities of life, we want transportation. And so these are things that we need on a daily basis just to survive. And then we find there are other needs. Needs might be that we live in a community, so taxes need to be paid. Filing the taxes, there's a little joke that says there are only two things in life which are permanent: death and taxes. We have to deal with them. Everyone has to deal with them. And so some of the currency is going and paying taxes based on wherever we live. And also we might want services for the body. Let's say we get sick, so we need to go to the doctor. We might want to keep the body fit and get a personal trainer for ourselves. We might need to go to a place where they can take good care of the body, let's say a spa or something, and so we services that we get. In life also, as we pass by, you might need some legal help. You might be buying a house, you might need a lawyer's help, you might need other professional help from an accountant. And so if we look at what we do all day, it is to just take care of our day-to-day activities, about our mundane things. And then as we shop, there are things that we like. Whether we need them or not, we buy them because they look good to us. How many times have we gone and bought things that we later on realize have not made any difference, but on the spur of the moment, it looked very beautiful to us, very enchanting to us, very intriguing to us, and we bought it. And as we accumulate wealth, or what we think we are accumulating, what is very interesting is to look at what the saints have talked about the wealth of this world. We buy things, and as we grow, and as we grow older, we all know how many things we get that we don't use. Things rust, things get changed, things that we're afraid we'll lose. And all of these things, what happens to them at the time of our death? They all remain here. Whether it be our house, whether it be our jewelry, whether it be our property or our bank balances, they're all going to be here. And in this world, we feel to be wealthy is to accumulate possessions. To be wealthy is to have more things for ourselves. And as we start to look at our life, and as we look at life and see how life is led for various people, experiences of passing through life make us gain a lot. Today, as we look back and as we want to talk about spiritual riches or we talk about riches in heaven, our thoughts always go to the lives of the great saints and mystics. And we start to see how they led their lives. Jesus went on the cross for whom? Not for himself, but for everyone else. Why? Because he loved them, because he cared for them. And that's the kind of life that he would like us to live. When we look at the life of other saints and mystics have come in many, many traditions, in all faiths, all parts of the world, all religions, all cultures. And we look at the lives of the great saints and mystics, we find that each and every one of them lived not for themselves, but to make the life of everyone else better. Why? Because in themselves, they love God. In themselves, they realize that this creation is created by the Lord. In themselves, they realize that each and every one of us here is a reflection of God, is a part of God. They realize that everyone and everything that we meet here comes from the same source. And so their vision was such that they saw the goodness in each and everyone that we met. Most human beings, rather than seeing the goodness in others, are looking at what they feel are flaws in others. Because we feel that they are different than us. And anyone who's different than us, let's say they dress differently, they speak a different language, their cultures are different, their understandings are different. As we interact with them, we feel, they're not right. Because we feel we've lived our life, we know a lot, everything that we do, the way we dress up, what cultures we have, the way we speak, the way we eat, the way we behave is all correct. Everything else we think is wrong. And so as human beings, most of us are only looking at that side in others, which is different than us. And as soon as it's different, we say, this is not like me, and we walk away. But when you look at the life of the saints and mystics, you see all kinds of people surrounding them. The rich and the poor, the educated and the uneducated. People of all faiths. Because when you look at the lives of these saints, they came in all traditions. They did not come to start a new faith. It was actually their followers who took the teachings and started another faith. Because when you dig down and look into the teachings of all the faiths, they all talk about God, they all talk about union with God, they all talk about love, they all talk about living peacefully and calmly. And so these saints came to uplift humanity. Now we need to focus on what the message of this great saint was. That we need to live in love. We need to focus on leading a life in which kindness goes to others. Because how do we express love? Love in our thoughts, love in our words, and love in our deeds is expressed as kindness. As like selfless service, as an extended hand that helps someone else. And as we pass through life, what is very interesting is that as science is doing more and more research, it is coming to the conclusion that what the saints said thousands of years ago makes a lot of sense. That when we gave love, then we received love in return. And when we gave pain, then we received pain in return. And that's what karma is all about. Karma, the theory of karma says that for every thought, word and deed, we are held accountable. So if we have good thoughts and good words and good deeds, then we are rewarded. And if we have bad thoughts and bad words and bad things, then we're punished. And so it's like a law of tit for tat. Like as we sow, so shall we reap. Because every thought every word and every deed are very, very potent. And this is why when we have good thoughts, then we have good words. And when we have good words, we have good deeds. So how do we get to good thoughts? When our understanding is right, when our understanding is correct. Because if our understanding would be correct, then our thoughts would be correct. And then every other aspect would fall into place properly. We all think like to accumulate treasures of this world is what will make us happy. But when you talk to those who are very, very rich, you find, because there are many, many surveys that have been carried out, it's not that riches makes one happy. Those who accept life as it is are the ones who are the happiest. And those who are always clamoring for more are always in turmoil. And so it's a question of being able to get to a state where we realize that happiness is not going to come to us from anything on the outside, because everything of this world is temporary. And so when we start to talk about spiritual riches, what is it that we have the most? The saints tell us that the foremost capital that God has given us is time. We all have time in this lifetime. We've been given a number of breaths, and they correlate to years and months and weeks and hours and minutes and seconds. And that's our capital, because each and every moment is very, very special. If we put it to right purpose, then we will get to our goals. Our goal in this life is to truly know ourselves and to know God. That is what self-realization and God-realization is all about. So we need to know who we are, we need to know what is our purpose in life, we need to know where are we going, and then we need to know how to get there. If we don't know who we are, then we would not know where we want to go. If we don't know what our goal is, we will never be able to get there. And so first to realize who we are is important. Most of us think of ourselves as the body. But we all know the body will perish. We all know that with time, physical death is going to come to us. But is that the end of our existence? The saints tell us no. It's just a changing of a vesture for our soul. Our true self is not the body. It's just a vehicle that we have while we are passing through this lifetime. That our soul has lived before and it will live afterwards too. And that we all have a place in heaven to go to. And so saints are telling us, let us do these in this lifetime, which will make our afterlife better. Now, how do we get there? By leading a life of love. As we start to think about loving God, because we can't see God with these eyes, we can hear God with these ears, then how do we get to love God? The first thing is to experience God. If we can experience God, then we would be able to love God. All tradition tells us that God is everywhere. God is within each and every one of us. God is not just residing someplace in outer space. And so for us to know God, we need to invert. But what do? We spend all our time in the world outside. We need to cleanse layers after layers which are covering our soul so we can get to the truth. But instead, we are so enamored by the objects of this world And we're so entangled and intrigued by them that all of our time, all of our capital is lost in just pursuing those. This life is given to us to weed out the difficulties that are keeping our soul from knowing God. But instead of focusing on our soul, instead of leading a life in which we would put the virtues in our life more and more and more, we are leading lives in which we are entangling ourselves more in the world outside. And as that happens, we then are getting further and further away from being with God, because we're putting more and more burdens on ourselves. The more we get entangled in the world outside, the more karma comes on our being, the more we have to deal with it. And so saints and mystics are always exhorting us to focus our attention in the right arena. As children, we all, especially in this country, would play Monopoly. Monopoly is a very interesting game. And I am sure many of you spend many, many hours playing Monopoly. And not only do you play it just for one day, if the game doesn't end, you keep it for another day, another day, another day. As you are moving around, you're buying up a hotel, you're buying up a house, and you're charging rent to those who get there. And when you look at it, that's what happens in life. What do? And we get out of school, we want a job. As soon as you get a job, everyone says, better buy a house, values are going to go up. And we get one property, you say, oh, you need to get a rental property now. And in the end of Monopoly, what happens? Whether it takes 1 day, or 2 days, or 3 days, or 4 or 5, you fold the board and the game is done. No? And when we only lead our life in that manner in the world also, we, at the time of our death, have lost this golden opportunity. The game of a monopoly of life has been put out by what is called the universal mind. Our mind, which doesn't want us to know God, our mind, which wants us to be entangled in our world, our mind, which is a lover of enjoyment, our mind, which is derailing us from reaching our goals. There's another game which God has put out, it's called the game of love. It's loving God, loving God's creation, and leading a life of love in which not only are we happy, but happiness goes from us to everyone else. Loving not only other human beings, but all forms of creation. First, we need to experience it for ourselves. And that is where meditation comes into play. Meditation is nothing more than experiencing ourselves truly. Meditation is nothing more than experiencing God. Meditation is nothing more than taking our attention from the world outside and focusing it within ourselves and experiencing ourselves as we truly are. Meditation is not passive as most people think. Meditation is very, very active, because it's a process by which we are unraveling the secrets of reality, of creation, of who we are and what our goals are and how do we get to our goals. And so saints and mystics are always exhorting us to experience for ourselves the realities of this existence. And so when we sit down to meditate, we withdraw our attention from the world outside. By looking for a calm and quiet place, we are withdrawing our sense of hearing so that nothing is distracting us. By sitting, even though hundreds of thousands of us can sit together and we can meditate, we make sure no part of our body is touching someone else, so that if they get distracted, we are not going to get distracted. They're moving or they can't be still. We don't change the atmosphere. We feel, God created all of creation. Everything is heavenly. Everything is good. So there's no need to like incenses and nothing. So a sense of smell is withdrawn. We're definitely not going to eat as we meditate, so a sense of taste is withdrawn. And by closing our eyes, we withdraw a sense of sight. So by finding a quiet place and sitting down, we can withdraw these five senses. As we withdraw them, our sensory currents start to rise in the body, and they collect here at a spot which is between and behind the eyebrows called the single or the third eye. Now, as we collect all our sensory currents there, then with help and guidance we can rise above physical body consciousness. There are regions after regions which are more ethereal, more conscious than the physical region of ours. And we can enter those regions. We see lights, we see skies, we see stars, sun, moon, and many, many other vistas within. It's very interesting that many saints and mystics have talked about the inner journey. And they talked about mansions, they talked about houses, they talked about places for us to be. Saints come into this world to help each and every one of us. They want us to get back to God. They want us to find our true home. It is we who are trying to find a house here in this world. These are all temporary housings. Just like, we live in a pretty mobile society, so we work in one city for a few years and there's a transfer of a job, we go someplace else, so we change our house. Okay? And even if we are in one place for all our life, when we physically pass away, we're not living there anymore, we're gone. But this, what is being talked about, is a permanent house, a house in heaven that is being prepared for us. Each and every one of us has a spot there. We need to get there. If we do those activities which are godly, if we love God with all we have, we love God's creation with all we have, then we will definitely be getting to the right mansion. There are many techniques by which people try to access the mansions within. Techniques of rising above physical body consciousness. In this human body, we have what is called chakras. There are 5 physical centers in the body. The Guda chakra, which is close to the rectum center. Indri chakra, which is close to the regeneration center. The Navi chakra, which is close to the navel center. The Hriday chakra, which is close to the heart center. And then the Kant chakra, which is close to the throat center. These are 5 physical centers from which this body is created. Then it's sustained. And then when our breathing stops or our heart stops to beat, we say the person has died. And so life is destroyed. And so there are many techniques by which people focus on one of these chakras, they focus all their attention, they try to raise it up. Some of the techniques are very, very difficult to do. They need extreme, rigorous physical practices. But as we collect our sensory currents, and let's say Guda chakra or close to the rectum center, then we need to raise it to the next chakra, to the Indri chakra. Then we need to raise it to the next chakra, Hriday chakra, the heart chakra. We need to raise it to the next chakra, the throat chakra. And then we have to raise it to what is called the Ajna chakra, or the eye focus, the single or the third eye. Because the soul is going to leave the body from the center. This is the gateway into the regions beyond. And so the saints in the Sant tradition ask us to not worry the 5 physical centers, but focus all our attention on the spiritual center. This is the seat of the soul. This is called the Dasma Dwar, or the Shiv Netra, or the single or the third eye. And so just like all day long, as we go through our day-to-day activity, we're not worried about how our breathing is coming, we're not worried about how our heart is beating. We just keep on doing what we are doing, and those systems are just working automatically. So as we meditate, we don't change those systems, we let those systems go normally. Instead, we withdraw our sensory currents, and as they collect here at the seat of the soul, we're able to then experience for ourselves vistas after vistas of divine light.